Hello and welcome to Business Spotlight. My name is Claudia Thompson, and today I'm here with Farard Darver from Healthcare International Research. Welcome, Farard. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you kick us off and tell us who you are, what you do, and how you got started with the business?
Yeah, so as you said, my name is Farard Darver. I'm the CEO of a company called Healthcare International Research Limited, and we are a company that manufactures and formulates legally registered CBD-based topical products, and we distribute those around the world.
Wow, very good. Thank you so much. And yeah, we had a brief chat briefly, and you said your business is around the world. And what would you say was the biggest tool to help you grow? So what would you attribute that growth to?
The biggest tool for our growth, I mean, the company I started myself after I left the army. I served for 17 years as a British Army officer, and I got injured in Afghanistan on my first tour, which was an injury I carried with me throughout my service, and it just got worse and worse and worse, and ended up having operations on my leg and hip replacements and all sorts. So I was looking for something that was, I got quite addicted to kind of opioid-based painkillers, or quite heavy painkillers, and I realized that actually probably wasn't a route I'd want to take for the rest of my life. And my liver probably wouldn't put up with it either. So I was looking for alternative kind of, things that were out there, a bit more natural. And I came across cannabidiol acid, otherwise known as CBD, from the hemp plant, and that really helped me. And I thought, actually, you know what, there's something in this. So the part of our business that has really taken off is the fact that we are very heavily researched by science, and we're very efficacious. So we ensured that when we got into this, what is in essence an unregulated industry, we did it properly, and we did it with the correct kind of values and standards that would be expected inside something like this. And our growth has been down to the fact that I probably carried over a very similar ethos from the army into business, and that's actually part of our growth has been can be attributed to the way that we do business.
And if you had to start all over again, so you had to start at square one in business, is there anything you would do differently?
If I had to do all this from the beginning, is there anything I would do differently? I would probably put more time aside for personal. I have missed probably the last 3 or 4 years of my kids growing up. My kids are now 10 and 12. I've probably not really had the involvement with them as I may have over the last. But the thing is that this comes very much down to there is no personal life. When you start off a company from scratch as an entrepreneur, if you want to call that, you are everything to everyone. You are the one that cleans the floor and packs the products. You are the ones that oversees the formulation. You're the ones that has strategic meetings with government bodies. You do the VAT returns. You do everything. You are everything. So there is no personal life. And I don't know that if I look back and like to turn around and say, oh, it's a bit. I'd love to turn around and say I'd like to have at least gone, that's separate, and when I get home, that's my time. And people who say you can do that, they're full of it. It's absolute nonsense. You can't. When you're starting a company from scratch, it is 100% of the time, all day, every day. You eat, sleep, and breathe it if you want to make it a success. It's as simple as that.
And having said that, you sound like you found a better work-life balance now.
Absolutely.
And how do you balance your personal life with those demands that your business puts
I have
you?
now, but I'm kind of 5 years in. And it was only after 4 years that I actually could turn around and go, do you know what? On a Saturday and a Sunday, I very rarely pick up my phone. I very rarely look at emails. I'm doing stuff in and around the house. I'm being a normal husband and father. But that was 4 years of almost 18-hour days, 7 days a week. So I get quite frustrated and annoyed when I look at social media and I see LinkedIn and I see Instagram, or I see these things of people who are saying, hey, you got to have a work-life balance, and you started your new company, but it's absolute BS. It's absolute rubbish. I'm going to give it to you completely from the ground up. If you are starting a company from scratch and you want it to succeed, it is all you do every day, 365, until it starts actually generating some kind of revenue, or you are in some way what I call a self-licking lollipop, where you're self-sufficient. Up until then, it's just not going to happen. And people who they draw people on a journey, and that people think, oh, no, that's wrong. You can have time for yourself. No, you can't. You can do things, but they will take a second seat to something else that needs to be done. You can't have something that comes in and goes, I'll leave that till Monday. It needs actioning now, and it's a Saturday night. Why? Because actually, you know what? You do realize that in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, their weekend isn't Saturday, Sunday like ours. So the bottom line is it very much depends on where you're operating, what you're doing. But I had a vision to grow and create a global company to operate around the world as we are now. That couldn't have been done if I just went Friday down tools and I'll look at it on Monday. Just doesn't work that way. And my ambition and vision is high. So but that's what you want to do. And if you want to do something, there's nothing more that's going to make it happen than just grafting out hard work and grinding and grinding and grinding. It's the only way it's going to happen. So yes, I've got a work-life balance now. It's still massively towards the work, but there is a small bit of life now. Yeah.
And it probably helped that you had a really strong why you started the company, and then that helped you create that vision where to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a philanthropist. I'm someone that's creating a company for profit. Don't make any bones about that. I'm not here to save the world. But at the same time, I'm actually in the best of both worlds, because whilst I have a business, there is a philanthropic element of it in regards to the fact that I'm addressing a social issue, which is the addiction to, chemically based prescribed medicines. If there's something that is, we have products that alleviate skin and muscle and joint issues naturally, that don't have chemicals, that don't have pesticides and petroleum, or it's all natural, lots of research. I'm not anti-pharma, don't get me wrong at all. I'm not anti. I'm not no. If you break your leg, rubbing a gel ain't going to do anything. But at the end of the day, there is an alternative to maybe reaching for that anti-inflammatory tablet sitting in the cupboard, or that cream that has a chemical or a cortisone based kind of, so we've got and we have, the world has got massive addictions to painkillers. I mean, the UK suffers from it. I think about 1 in 4 people suffer from chronic pain in the UK. It's 1 in 5 in the US. So we're just basically, we're in a fortunate position where I can look at myself in the mirror every day. And whilst I am running a successful company, actually, we're also addressing and providing a solution that if someone wants to maybe try something that's a bit natural and alternative, it's there. So I kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't make it a secret that it's also a profit target attached to it.
I'm not a non-profit. I'm a company. I'm here to make money for shareholders and for the company. Of course I am. But if we can do it at the same time as actually providing something out there that's natural and as an alternative and is good for people who suffer with very bad skin conditions or suffer with muscle aches and strains, then yeah, brilliant. But I'm not one of those people that sit here and try and pretend that what I'm doing isn't to generate revenue. Of course it is. We live in a capitalist world, in a capitalist country. I'm here to try and to generate a good business, but an ethical business, a business that is run on the same values and standards that I served for 17 years with.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned you are now global. So you had to at one point go from entrepreneur or business founder to become an employer. And what do you think have been your biggest learnings as an employer since starting the business?
Biggest learnings as an employer has been staff. I see, when I was in the army, I wasn't responsible for paying my soldiers and people who were underneath my command. It involved, you know, it was leadership and management. The biggest learnings as an employer is that pretty much, you know, I am responsible for ensuring that at the end of the day, their bank has money in it so they can live their life and pay their bills. I've never had that before. You know, whilst I was responsible for people's lives, it was a different kind of responsibility for their lives, be that on operations physically because of their life and the fact that they may lose it in service, or whether it's the fact that it was to do with their career and their promotions. But I was never responsible for the paycheck they got at the end of the month. That was nothing to do with me. Whereas that is absolutely one key driver for me, is that any decisions that I make, everything I do has got to be for the good of the company, to generate the revenue to be able to pay the individuals that work for it. And I never had that before. And that was something that hit home quite quickly, and something that I realized was a responsibility of mine, because I don't take it lightly that people look to me to ensure that they can pay their bills at the end of the month.
Yeah, that adds that extra pressure, doesn't
Quite
it?
sobering.
If it's just you, yeah, then yeah,
it's different when I started this in a bedroom downstairs, you know, one of my boys' downstairs bedrooms, you know, I went in, created an office, I was running it from home, it was just me. That's brilliant, but that's not the case anymore. So I'm very aware, and I always ensure that that, you know, what we do is for the benefit of the company as a whole, and that absolutely inculcates those that work for it, self-included now.
And at what point did you decide to hire that very first person?
When I was unable to do it all myself.
Yeah.
is really it. You know, I've always had a really good team around me. So whilst, yes, I started this, I have had people involved from the very, very beginning who were working, you know, free of charge, shall we say, because they knew that they believed in it and they knew that it would come good. So I've always had, you know, someone fulfilling the role inside, you know, daily operations or marketing or management or graphic design and legal and that kind of thing. You know, I had to always ensure I had that in place, because the one thing, you know, that's I have a good amount of experience in is leadership and management, having done what I did for 17 years. So I understand how to lead and manage people. So for me, it was critical from the very, very beginning to ensure that I have a team in place that can support me in what it is I'm trying to achieve. I don't believe in, I absolutely don't believe in self-made. It doesn't exist. You know, there's no such thing as someone who says I'm self-made person, self-made man. Absolute rubbish. You, at some point there is a support structure or support network there in order to facilitate one achieving what it is that they're doing.
Yeah. And you touched on it there, but what qualities do you look for in employees, and how do you foster a positive and productive work environment?
So the first part of that question, what do I look for in an employee? I look for someone who first and foremost believes. They have to believe in what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve, which is to just, you know, we are here to try and make people's lives better with what it is that we are selling, in essence, because that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day, isn't it? No matter what job you're in, you're a salesperson, whether that's you know, physical products or manufacturing, or whether it's facilities, or whether it's, you know, finance or services. You know, it's sales, isn't it? People that work with me and for us have to believe in what we're doing, because that's where passion comes from. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing, I don't really have an interest in working with you. People have to be passionate about this. So that's the first and foremost. And then the second thing, a very, very close second, is loyalty. You know, those values and standards of the British Army, such as loyalty and integrity. You know, the values that I learned as a commando of cheerfulness in the face of adversity and unselfishness. These are all things that I carry through to how I operate and run the company, and how I expect people to do the same. So we inculcate and ensure that we fester a very open. I mean, I do not want yes men around me. I have constant, every day someone will turn around and go, no, I disagree with that. I want people with the confidence to be able to do that. But at the same time, I want them to also have the integrity and loyalty that when I decide, actually, I think this is what we're going to go ahead and do, whether they agree with it or not, that's what we do. And they put their efforts into absolutely 100% that, okay, I may not agree with the boss, but that's what he's decided and that's what we're doing. And that is something that I've learned to be able to draw out of people through my previous experience.
So you basically you treat them as an extension of yourself almost.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, one thing I learned from when I first joined the army, I had a very, very good boss, an officer commanding, as they are, someone who's in charge of a squadron. And he told me that his squadron was an extension of his family. I didn't really know what he meant by that at that stage, because it was like 160 people. What are you talking about? But I soon realized what he meant. And I then used that kind of mindset for the rest of my time. And I've used it here. This company and the people that work for it are very much an extension of me, and we are in essence a big family. We are driven by family values and those kind of core values. That I think that's not just an army thing. I think it's just being a good person, just general good, I suppose, beliefs, in how you operate, and that's kind of what we do. I think it's a real key part of our success.
So do you have out of interest, do you have a mission statement, like a formulated mission statement that people?
Yeah, we do. We want to become the number one
perfect.
cannabinoid skincare company in 3 years. That's it. We got
Yeah.
3 years left from when we started we had a 5-year policy. We want to become, and we will become, the number one company for CBD based topicals in the world. Absolutely, that is our mission, and we will do that.
Perfect. Yeah, no, because a lot of business owners, they think they have an idea what their culture is and what their mission is, but as long as it's not written down, I always think it doesn't really exist. But it sounds like you've got that perfectly sorted.
Yeah, I think you need to have that in regards to understanding who you are, because if you don't really have an understanding about who you are and what it is that you want to do, then I don't think you fully understand your values. You need to have a purpose, you need to have a mission, you need to have a vision. Our purpose is to bring quality and legitimacy to what in essence is an unstandardized industry through expert capability and research in order to benefit consumer well-being. And our mission is to create opportunities so that the consumers have a more enjoyable and comfortable lifestyle. And we do this by providing effective, regulatory compliant, heavily researched products. And that leads us to our vision, which is, as I said, to become the number one cannabinoid company in the world. So, that's a very kind of rigid purpose, mission, and vision that we have. But that's because we have to have that. At the end of the day, I come from a military background. We absolutely need to understand what our concept of operations, what our mission, our vision, what it is. And I took that and put that in. So having a clear purpose, a clear mission, and a clear vision was there from the get-go.
Perfect. So on that note, what do you think are some common misconceptions about running a business, and how would you address them?
Common misconceptions. Have you ever seen those memes online where it says and it gives a job title, and it says, what my friends think I do, what my mum thinks I does, what I do, what my friends, what I actually do. And you've all got them for different. Well, I'm sure there are those memes out there for kind of like startups or business entrepreneurs, or I mean, the biggest misconception is that you're absolutely loaded with cash. For some reason, people think if you're only a big company, you must be minted. That's the first one. The second one is unilateral decision making, as if you can just turn around and just at the whim decide you know, you probably technically can, but you know, you wouldn't do that, or at least I never would. You know, you always run it past your team, whether you are a sole director or part of a board or whatever. Like, you know, I think there is an element. I think another misconception. It's a bit of a personal kind of bugbear of mine, and that's it's the terms. You know, managing director, chief executive officer. They mean different things to different people in different parts of the world, and you know, I think you depending on where you operate and what you do, you know, a big misconception, something that for me that is a little bit of a bugbear, is when when someone it has their name down as a CEO, but there's like one or two people in the company, or that it's not really, because what are you chief and executive officers about? There's a misunderstanding, and I only very recently went to that, when actually we ended up having executive positions, of which actually no, there is one person above them all, and that sits. So, but at the same time, you see in America, a managing director, they look at slightly different to a CEO, whilst in the UK, it's almost one the same. So what I would, you know, a big misconception is who you are within the company, and then whether you are a founder or whether, you know, so I think the way that I kind of got around that was, ultimately, I don't really think it matters what you are labeled as long as the person who you're talking to understands who you are within the organization. And that can sometimes change because, you know, as I said, it's different. An MD is different to a CEO depending on who you're dealing with and in what part of the world. So that's a bit of a misconception. You know, I just prefer to kind of downplay things a little bit. You know, I will always say we, not I, because whilst I might, I have a really good team, and I've built a really good team, and I always kind of, I've used an analogy previously of, and it's probably getting to that right time of year, isn't it? You know, a really well decorated Christmas tree with the lights and the tinsel and the decorations. If it's really well decorated, having the star at the top of it, if that star's not there, it's still a really well decorated Christmas tree. But if you've got just the star and the tree is empty, it's not a Christmas tree, is it? So I kind of go, well, I look at it as that's the top position, that it's the icing on the cake. It's the one that gives that focus, it gives that form. But ultimately, if you've done your job in ensuring that you've built a really, really good team, that star's not there for whatever reason, at least the functionality can continue. And I realized very, very quickly that you need to have a team, because you can't do everything yourself. You can't be there. Whilst I said previously 365, there are elements of just sometimes you cannot be there or do, and you don't want to just stop because you're not there. So for me, ensuring that there is the ability for succession planning, and for people to, that if I'm not there, someone can be, and it can still function and operate. That for me is again, it's my kind of army background, because you always learn one job up and no one job down.
Great. I love the image of the Christmas tree. That was really a nice way to describe it. And I will never look at a Christmas tree the same way again.
Probably ruined Christmas for you now.
No, not at all. No one can ruin Christmas for me. Perfect. On that note, thank you so much for your time today. I wish you all the best and all the luck and success on your journey to becoming the best cannabinoid company in the world. And thank you so much for your time today.
No, you're more than welcome. Thanks very much for having me. And just remember that vision without execution is hallucination, and luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So it's all good.
What a beautiful final word. Thank you.